Okay, we have a full moon coming up on August 9th that is in Aquarius and is doing a lot of work. So let's get into what this full moon means for you, what it looks like in astrology, and how we can work with it. Hi, my name is Crystal and Sophia. I'm an astrological magician, so you don't have to be. And I want to show you on a chart what the astrology of this full moon looks like. And then we're going to talk about some folk magic-y ways to make this full moon work for you in alignment with what it's actually trying to express. Okay, so when we bring this full moon up in our Luna software, what we see is, of course, it's August 9th at around 3:55 a.m. on the East Coast. I cast this chart for Washington, D.C., just for a nice place to cast it. So by the time you wake up on the 10th, if you are in the North American continent, this full moon will have already occurred. Leading up to it, we may notice its effects more. And then if you want to work with it consciously with folk magic, actually during the day of August 9th, after the perfection of this opposition between the sun and the moon, will be the ideal time. So let's get into that. What does that mean? And what are we looking at with this full moon? So a full moon, by definition, is the moon being full of light, which means that the sun is able to shine fully on the moon without the earth getting in the way. If the earth were to get in the way because everything's been angled appropriately, that would be a lunar eclipse. Don't worry though, we're not in eclipse season yet. We're approaching it though, because once the sun comes into Virgo, you see these lovely nodes here. They indicate that's where the eclipses will occur. So we have next month where these eclipses will happen. For now, we still get to work with these lunations. Whereas during eclipses, I usually say don't try to work with them magically. Let them do what they're going to do. Let them set the stage and then take action after. But not yet. We get to work with this one if we so choose. Let's talk about what this one is giving before we start thinking about how we're going to apply it. So when we narrow down what is going on with this full moon, it looks pretty isolated, right? If you get rid of everything by aspect degree, we don't have a lot of tense aspects happening here. So that is a little bit different than some of the stuff we've been seeing before. But what we are working with here is the moon, of course, is separating from this conjunction, which would have happened about the day before with Pluto, who is retrograde in Aquarius. And Pluto is opposite Mercury here, which is also where the sun is. So Mercury retrograde is still in effect in Leo. The sun is still domicile in Leo, exactly opposite with the moon. 16 degrees of Aquarius in 59 minutes, 16 degrees of Leo in 59 minutes. So that's how we know they're opposite each other. They've got that nice red line on the chart. And that is what we are working with. By whole sign, though, there are some more conversations happening. They're just not as loud. So think about these as more like background noise conversations rather than into the microphone conversations. And what we're dealing with, of course, the presence of Pluto and Mercury is a thing. This is actually applying because Mercury is going to back up to the second degree where Pluto is. So this is something we'll see over the next few days, perfecting, which means it's applying now, which means the potential energy of it is building. And then we see that the moon, if we move just one sign over, so we skip a sign here and we move into this other sign, this is a sextile aspect, so they can see each other. The signs directly on either side of the sign of the planet you're working with are called aversions. They are averse to that sign, so we have blind spots. And so in this case, the moon is averse to Pisces, to Capricorn, to Cancer, and to Virgo. But Aries can see Aquarius. And Aries is in fact trine with where the sun is, even though again, the sun has moved on, the moon has moved on. That's not an applying aspect, but that Saturn-Neptune situation is still in the conversation. It is the background noise of what is going on here. And of course, this is not playing on its own, right? So Saturn and Neptune are forming a sextile aspect that's quite tight with Pluto, who is forming a trine aspect, not only with Uranus, but also with Mars, who is opposite Saturn within the degree, right? So this tension here is what I'm looking at. You can actually see it really well with this taking everything else away. So we have this big pattern here, which is going to be hanging out with us for a while. The Uranus, Neptune, Saturn, and Pluto situation is going to be hanging out for a while because these planets move very slowly. So even though some of them are going to dance back and forth between signs, that's just going to elongate how long we work with them. It might give us a bit of a reprieve from what they're bringing about, but they are bringing things about. And when they get a more personal planet to work through, we can notice a little bit more what they're doing. So we get more of a in our present awareness kind of actionable event. Think about it as a plot point in a story. And of course, Mars is one of those more personal planets by a little bit. And so they are bringing their agenda forth right now through Mars. They all can see Mars. And you think about the nature of Mars, and it's a bit cranky. So, this is something we want to keep our eyes on as this full moon is making the astrology a little bit more potent for us. And again, Mars has that trine going on with the moon. So the moon is also looking at Mars, separating, fortunately, maybe the day before this, we noticed a lot happening in the headlines that was kind of showing us stuff is happening. And now in this full moon, we're realizing, coming to the fullness of the realization of how we feel about it and what we want to do about it in our own personal spheres of influence. The moon is as personal as it gets. When she has a lunation, a new moon or a full moon, she lets us know kind of where we are at, what we're beginning, what we're finishing, what we are kind of understanding at a deeper depth, and then where we're going to go from there. So this is a very midpoint kind of storyline that we're looking at here. We have some clarity that we may have been gaining over the last 6 months or so. And now we're deciding how are we going to finish off this year, so to speak, the next 6 months. The next 6 months between the period of the moon being opposite the sun, which is in Leo, and then the sun, of course, catching up to where the new moon in Aquarius will be. So that'll be next January, February. Okay, so if I had to put all of that into a sentence of what does that actually mean, I would summarize it in a way for us personally on a personal and individual level, really leaning into the fact that Aquarius is quite an individuated sign. It's a fixed air sign. So it's got that air quality of having the big picture, but it does also have this fixity of thinking about itself and where do I fit into this and how am I different from the rest. So Aquarius is also frequently known as the weird kind of thing of the sign, the eccentric one. So there's a lot to say about how are my unique traits necessary to the whole? How is my individuality, my being true to who I am, even if that's different and doesn't adhere to social norms, so to speak, how is that still necessary for us to function as a well-oiled machine on a societal level? Where do I see my best place that I fit naturally, not that I have to force myself into? In other words, how can I witness my place in society? And you may notice this a little bit more potent for you if you are someone who has your angles. That would be your ascendant here on your chart, on your own chart, your ascendant, your 10th house, your 7th house, or your 4th house, if they are the signs of Leo, of Taurus, of Aquarius, or of Scorpio. If those are one of your angles, or if they're one of your rising signs, then you may notice this a little bit more because it's happening in a prominent area of your life based on where it's happening in your chart. And then also, if Aquarius or Saturn are activated for you by any sort of timing technique, and if you don't know your timing right now and you don't know who your time lords are, schedule a consultation with me. I will do the math for you and we'll let you know who that is between your last birthday and your next birthday. And then you'll know and you'll be able to work with this stuff even more closely and more specific for you. And of course, if you follow me on any of my socials at Crystal and Sophia, I have already posted some horoscopes for each rising sign so you can read it there, and I will have done some of the math for you in that aspect as well. As far as an affirmation and magic to do with this moon, it's a full moon in Aquarius. It's about deciding how to be as authentically yourself as possible in spite of obligations or expectations or what you should do. This is about removing the shoulds. You shouldn't should on yourself. So how can you do that? How can you lean into who you are, to what makes you special or unique, and to allow yourself to be able to do that? So the affirmation is, I deserve to be myself and to be accepted. Those two can exist at the same time. And if you give yourself this little spell, which is also an affirmation, I deserve to be myself and to be accepted, you can light a candle for that. This lunation is ruled by Saturn, which we saw is in a pretty incredible position right now. So if you wanted to light a black candle or some kind of a candle that you feel resonant with, then you could light that candle and speak this maybe 7 times or anything that you'd like to do with that kind of magical ritual that you could bring for yourself. Other ways to apply this would be to think about your interests and the passions that you have, and then to realize how they naturally contribute to the world around you. Just like the sky would be incomplete without one of the planets or some of the stars, the world would be incomplete without you. And you have to be able to be the way you are. If we had a sky full of all suns or all Venuses or all Saturns, there would be no room for any of the amazingness in life, any of the varied expression of the changes, of all of the things that have to combine multiple elements in order to be beautiful. And so you are a combination of elements and things as well, whether they're energetic or they're from, the periodic table. However you look at it, you are a unique combination of traits, of elements, of qualities, and that is important. It's not just special, it's important. So think about how you are unique and how that's okay. And where can you feel most accepted about it? What social circles feel the most natural for you to exist as yourself in? And then maybe you spend a little bit more time around the people who don't make you change who you are, but they actually support and make you feel more comfortable for who you are. So, again, this is all happening on August 9th. I hope that you have a really radical awareness of your importance during this time and just stay steady, keep yourself grounded, be who you are, and lean into the things that make you amazingly, authentically, and unapologetically you. And I will be here for the next lunation. I will be here every Monday for our Monday Magic Mood Boosts and on any social media you want to find me on. I hope you have a fantastic full moon.